Folks, let's take a look at a couple of cool things we can do with your header image. So I have already uploaded my header image. Mine's called banner.jpg. Yours will be named something different. So I'm putting my banner image above my H1 for a second. I'm going to do a couple of different things with this so you can see some different ways you could style it. So I'm going to go ahead and do my image tag like we've learned. src equals banner.jpg. Helps if I spell it right. Alt equals woman hiking. And I'll leave it without a size tag or a size attribute for a minute. You can see it's a really big image, but it's a cool image, right? So there are a few things that I could do. One, I could just go ahead and give it a width. I'm mixing my CSS and my HTML. And set it to like 500 or 600 or something like that to make it a nice, pretty image. Now that works in our preview pane, but if I pop this out and see the full-size view, you can see that it doesn't take up the whole page. That's okay. If that's where you want to leave your site and have it just like that, that's fine. Let's play with a couple of other things that you might do with it. So I'm going to jump over to my styles for a minute. And why don't I start by, I've already built, no, I'll go ahead and do this. I could center that image. So that would be thing number one. So I'm going to go ahead and put a class on this and call it my header class. And then I'm going to jump back over and style that header class. And remember, to center images, we have to do two things. First, we have to display block, semicolon. That means that now that image will take up all the space that's available to it, left to right. And then set margin to auto. And that means that the image will be pushed to the middle of the screen. So if I move this out, you can see that now that image is centered. I could do some more fun stuff with this if I want to make it pretty. So I could, for example, do border dash radius and set that to like 10 pixels. That'll round the edges of my image, which makes it look pretty cool. And then you guys have already learned how to do different borders and things like that. So if that's all you want to do with your header image, that is totally fine. And if you're already liking how your header image looks, then great. But I did want to show you a couple of other options. So the first thing I'm going to try is actually setting the image behind my H1 here. Okay, so that's the first thing I'm going to try. I've worked through this with a couple of you. So if you're one of those people, you can skip this and maybe go to the other option. Or again, if you like how your header image looks, just turn this off and get on with your life. Okay, so option one, center it, add some border radius, just make it look pretty, etc. Option two, so I'm going to go ahead and comment out this code. Oops. I forget that in CSS, the thing is different, and I'm trying to remember what it is. There we go. Okay. There we go. So I commented out that code. Now I'm just back to my header being kind of normal like this. So the other way I'm going to try it is actually I'm going to go up into my styling for the H1 tag. And I only have H1s as my main headings on my pages. So if I look at both of my pages, here's my index page. There's that H1. So that's my title on the page. If I go to pictures, there's that H1. That's my title on the page. I don't have any other H1s. If I did, I would want to put a class on this. So just be aware, if you have other H1s on your pages, you're going to want to put a class on this H1, the one at the top of each page, to make sure that it's the only one that gets this styling. Okay, so I'm going to come back. I'm going to delete the image tag. This is if you're going to do one of these fancy versions with me. I'm deleting the image tag, so my image is now gone from my header. And then I'm going to go in to my styling. And in the H1 here, you may have other styling in your H1. You may have changed the color and the size and added a border and those kinds of things. That's totally fine. What I'm going to do here is add that image as a background image. So I do the background dash image property, and then I add URL, and then I'm going to choose that banner image. And notice that it now has put that image behind my H1, but my H1 is kind of smooshed in there and is not looking super great. So this is where your other styling would come into play. I'm going to add some padding around that. I'm going to add, let's say, 300 pixels, just so I can show you what it would look like. And see how that kind of pushed it into the middle and made that image a little bigger. If I expand that out, you can see there's Dr. Cox over there. So I could play with my padding to get that in a better location. But I can also do things like background dash size is cover. Let me make sure I get all my semicolons in here. And what that does is it makes my background image stretch to fit the amount of space available. Okay, so that's what I've done here. So my H1 is kind of now embedded in front of that background image, which is kind of groovy. Okay, I can also do, instead of doing my padding here, I could do text align center. But that squished me back up again. But that does center my text left to right. So that's nice. And then I could do padding like this. So I can do padding 0, 500, or let's do 300 again. That looks pretty good. Pixels. Okay, that didn't help me. Let's switch that around. Padding 300 pixels and 0 pixels. So if I open this up now, you'll see that my name is right in the middle. Now my contrast is a disaster. I can't read it. But doing it that way, what this did was it made 300 pixels of padding top and bottom, 0 left and right because I already centered the text. That's how I got it centered right in the middle like that. Okay. So some things that you can play with. In this case, I would also probably change the color to white or some other color that's in my color scheme. And I would change the font size to something much larger so that it stands out better. See, so that's looking a lot better. Okay, so those are some cool things that you can do. You can pause the screen right now and all this code is available to you. Keep in mind your file name is going to be different from mine. And just for a good practice, I'm going to put my quotes around my file name there. There you go. So this would be kind of the final version of this particular way of approaching that image. Okay. There is one other cool effect that we can add to it. So right now, that's all fixed, and I just scroll right over it. Let me go back here. Okay. The other things that I can add to it are an effect that makes it look like I'm scrolling past an image. And I've got some code here for you that we're going to steal from. I put header here. I'm actually going to change this to H1 because that's the way we did it. Notice some stuff that I did here. So background image, URL, that we already did this. I put this min height thing in here. And then there's this background attachment is fixed, background position is centered. We're not repeating the background size cover we've already done. So let's reconfigure our code a little bit to see what this effect is going to look like. Notice I'm copying the 4 middle items in this code. Then I'm going to go to my site and I'm going to go to my styles. Okay, I already have that background image URL. I already have that background size cover. So what I'm going to do now is add those 4 lines of code. And I want you to see what that does. So notice now it looks like I'm scrolling past the picture while it stays there. Very cool effect, okay? So that's something that you could play with as well. And if I go back to my code here, we can talk about what's happening. So min height is meaning that this picture should never be smaller than 500 pixels tall. Okay, so that's keeping it a consistent height. Background image or attachment is fixed. That's what's making it so the image doesn't move when I scroll. Background position is centered. That's just making sure that our image is centered for sure. And then background repeat, no repeat. What that does is if this box ever gets bigger than the picture itself, normally the picture would repeat on me, but we've turned that off so that that image won't repeat. Okay, so just a very cool, I keep doing that, a very cool, simple effect. Because I did it on my H1 and because my style sheet is on both of my pages, that should be showing up on both my index page and my pictures page at this point. Okay, so just some options for you to be able to do some cool things with your header image, and any of them are okay. If you already like your header image the way it is, great. If you want to try putting it in the center with some rounding on it, that's great. If you want to put it as a background image, but it's just kind of static and it scrolls with your text, that's great. And if you want to do, this is what's called a parallax effect. If you want to do a parallax scroll, that's great too. Okay, any of those are just fine. I'm going to put this back on my CSS. So for those of you who want to pause it at this point and use this code to do the parallax effect on your own site.